Hello and welcome to the channel. Hope you're all well and getting some fishing in, wetting a line. Of course, some of you may be in the middle of a close season, and if you are, hang on in there and think of past and future triumphs. Now today we're going to tie a nymph, and it is the Holy Grail nymph. Now the Holy Grail nymph for me is more about the style of tying than it is about the materials. I think you can tie it in natural hair, dubbing, pheasant tail, or even turkey biot. But it is all about the style of tying. So in the vise I have a size 14 round bend hook and a 3mm standard bead. And I'll be tying with 10-0 black thread. So I'm going to start this just behind the bead and wind down. Trim off the excess. Now this will have a silver wire rib, and this is a fine silver wire, so just break a piece off, he said. There we go. And I'll tie that in. And tie down around the bend of the hook. Like so. Now, as I said, I'm going to use some UV hare's ear to tie the fly. So I'll just take some out and we'll dub this on. Dub it on quite tightly. Although we are going to rib it, we don't want it coming undone. And wind that on. Keep it tight as you dub, if it will let you. Wind up the hook to the thorax area, which is about there. So I have sufficient. Take off the excess. And I'll wind on the wire rib in the opposite direction. And tie off the wire. That should helicopter off. It does. Okay, now for the thorax cover, I'm going to use some standard pheasant tail fibres, and I'm going to take off maybe 8 or 10. Just trim those up. I'm just going to square those off. And tie those in. And we want to try and keep them on top. So what I'm going to do is tie them from the side, and then as I tie them in, they should fall on top. Just get rid of the excess there. Right, I'm now going to add some more of the hare's ear to create the thorax. Put it on tightly. That should be enough. And this is now the important part where we push back the bead and you transfer the thread to the front of the bead. Now, whether you do that over the top or underneath is entirely up to you. And just tighten it up in front of the bead like so. Right, now for the legs, I'm going to use some partridge feather. I'm looking for something that's going to be well marked and quite soft, so I'm going to go to the top of the neck. Let's have a look at that. Take that off, and I'm going to remove the flue, as it's called, at the bottom. And I'm left with something like that. I'm now going to pull back the fibres by hanging on to the point. Like so. I'm just going to trim up that point for tying in. Pull back those fibres. And I'm going to use a plier, a hackle plier, to wind that on. And depending upon the size of the fly, the feather, you will need 1 or 2. Just keep these fibres going back. 1 or 2 winds. I think 2 is sufficient on this occasion. So I will tie off the feather. Pull back the fibres. Tidy up. And I'm going to trim up, oops, got the scissors, trim up the stalk, like so. Just keep this nice and tidy. Right, now I'm going to separate the fibres, the legs, and pull over these pheasant tail fibres for the thorax cover. Try and keep them flat on top. And tie them off. And trim up the pheasant tail. Pull that fibre back there and create a head. Before I tie off the head, I'm going to put some glue onto the thread. And tie off the fly. And trim up the tying thread. Right, now let's have a look how this is sitting. Right, now I'm going to add just a little bit of UV to the thorax cover to give it a bit of extra support and strengthen it. Like so. Give that a zap. And the fly is finished. The UV hairs here, Holy Grail. And it's not a complicated tying, but it's a great nymph, and it's one that you need in your box. Now, as I say, the material for me is irrelevant. It's more about the style of tying than it is about the body materials. So there you go. Give it a try. I'm sure you'll find that it will catch you plenty of fish. I like this hare's ear version, this UV hare's ear. It's got a little bit of attraction in it. And it has certainly caught me a few fish, especially brown trout. So there you go. Thanks for viewing. I hope you enjoyed the tying. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.